let's just say 5 days is what it really took for them to come to this decision that Moses is dead and we're on our own. And, well, we can't make any decision to go back on our own, so or go anywhere. We got to stay put, which I thought was kind of odd. But anyway, so they stay put and they make this decision to make a golden calf. So what did they do? They decided God wasn't worth it. Right? They decided he wasn't worth it. And that's what happened this time. And so we got this group of people, and they all come to Sinai, and then Moses comes down the mountain, and he goes, wow. And you think he just dropped his jaw a little bit? And went, huh, that's what y'all been doing. And then he draws the line in the sand, and guess who gets picked? Levites. So the Levites get picked. They kill 3,000 people. They think, okay, it's done. It's over. It's not much longer after that.
That won't ever happen again. Saying after they did that is like, oh, that won't ever happen again.
That won't ever happen again. We took care of that problem. He just didn't know Korah was growing up at this period and going, I'm seeing this. And so then, got this big group of people, chosen people. Well, they screwed that up. All right, now we got this group of Levites. Well, they just screwed that up too. So, okay, Aaron, your line is who? Do you see my point? You got 2 million people-ish come out of the land of Egypt. It now goes down to a tribe that is how many in it?
9,000, something like that. Weren't there like 9,000, 90 or 10,000?
There's about 22,000 people in it.
22,000.
22,000 people in it. So 2 million, 22,000. It's a large jump there. To one family. That's 1% of 1% of 1%. And now God's going, they can't decide to do this again. And the reason is because there anywhere to go past Aaron's family? I'm asking a question. Think about it. Think about it. Is there any place to go besides Aaron's family? No. Yeah, they're brothers. Now, I also thought it was interesting that whose name is written on the staff? Aaron's or Moses? Well, whose name's written on?
Aaron's name.
Aaron's name's written on it. So you think Moses is actually getting a picture of, I'm doing my part, but I don't have a long stay in this part? Does that make sense? You got to think about it. What was Yeshua's role? Did it last a long time? His role was 3.5 years. That's why, I mean, we know he had other stuff, don't get me wrong. His role was 33 years, 33.5 years. But his actual ministry role was 3.5 years. How long was Moses's?
Long time. I was Moses when you died.
Less than a lifetime. But I'm just making the point, okay? Is there anywhere to go besides Aaron's family?
You could have went to Judah. It's on the other priests.
Come on, this is this interaction. Come on.
He's already excluded the rest of them.
Do what?
He's already excluded everyone else.
That's right.
But
There's
he had
nowhere to
also
go.
said he would wipe everyone out but Moses.
And Aaron.
Did he say Moses and Aaron?
He said, I'll make a new
Nation.
nation of you.
I'm just making the point, though. He has just done the thing of exclusion. Because is Moses' family mentioned after this?
No.
No.
So were they just grafted in?
Well,
I hope so.
when Moses gave up the right to speak, he gave up the right for his heirs to follow him.
Yeah, I think I was actually just saying this to Michaela, but Yeshua is the prophet like unto Moses, and so Moses being the prophet didn't have any lineage, like David or Aaron or Abraham. And the same with Yeshua, he didn't even have kids.
Right.
So just a parallel with.
But I go back to my question, and Phil hit it on the head. God has just gone down from the entire world. Because was he here for everybody at first?
Yes. Of course.
Absolutely. That's why it was Adam and Eve. And from them was to come his what? His family. And then it was Moses, or then it was Noah and his family. And then it was Abraham and his family. And now that it's Abraham's family, well, these other guys just screwed up, so we can't take 99% of those. We got to go to this percentage, and then we can't take all those. We got to go to this percentage. So the exclusion process is happening. Okay? So that's why 17 is important, is because he's actually laying out the foundation of that. He's going and he's saying, guess what? Pull your rods out, put the name of your father's house on it, but only one name, the leader of that house, shall have his name on it as well. Right? And then what do they do with them?
Put them in the upper country.
Put them before God. So God can do what?
Choose.
Choose.
Show them who the true God is.
Show who he's already chosen.
Right. Show who's already chosen.
Aaron's been already exalted. He said, okay, you guys need another visual picture? Here you go.
Right. Why? Because they've torn Aaron down at this point. What happens to a leader when he's completely torn down? Is he effective? Unless what happens?
Back up.
Another sign of his greatness. That's it. That's the only way it works. Okay? I mean, once again, I'm not getting into political things, but if we look at that, we look at different aspects of it, okay? And we all remember back to 9/11. And at the point right before, from the time George W. Bush took office to the time of 9/10, did he have much of an impact? Was he thought of highly as a leader?
Can't even remember.
Very, not really. They were all kind of going, we picked this guy?
Election.
Well, they all kind of go, we picked this guy? And then what happened? A moment happened, and he got to actually stand up and be a leader again. Right? We can all debate the issues ins and outs, but what made his popularity from 20% 9/10 to 85% 9/12? Look at it. Go back and look at it. It's because it's a defining moment that happened. And this is what God's trying to do. He's going, I've already shown you guys, this is him. This is the one. Do you not? Fine, let's do something else. He stood them in front of the plague. I mean, isn't that the picture of salvation? Isn't that the picture of salvation, that he's actually playing that role? He's playing the role of Savior at that point. He's standing there and going, no. And everybody else behind him can live. That's the true picture, right? But now they need another picture. Okay, here you go. I'll actually make it a flowery one. So maybe the girls will get it this time. I'm making the point here because, my guys, my boys, flowers aren't really their thing yet. Okay? My little girl, I'm so proud of her. Because my parents they went on this cruise and they got her this purse. But they got the boys cars. And she looked at the purse and went, cars. I mean, it's like, are you kidding? I can't do it. It doesn't room. It doesn't move. There's no wheels. And it doesn't make noise. I can't throw it at someone. You know, I mean, she had this attitude of it. And then her mom, then Randy's mom got her a pink monster truck. Her favorite toy. I'm just making the point though that girls like the flowery stuff. It had to be, there it is. It's a pink monster truck. The flowery one, okay? But I don't know why this was this way, except that can dead wood create life? No. Can you graft things in that have been cut off? Yes. Was a staff considered alive enough to be grafted in? No. So he was creating another miracle. Okay? So it blossoms and it buds, and do you think they got it at that point?
No.
No.
For a moment.
For a moment they did.
You're rebellious, that's why.
Well, true, but at that moment they went ahead and got, you know what, okay. All right, we'll give it to him. Does anybody else see anything in there? I'm just going back to this is the fact that it's all come from this one place of rebellion. That's where we're at.
Keep provoking God, if we keep doing it.
Right. Now, chapter 18, we got the priests, the duties of the priests, and we've got the tithe. I'm going to bring up one aspect of that I found really interesting. How many tribes are there?
13.
13. How many tribes had to give a tithe?
13.
13.
13.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Who got 10% of everybody's?
Aaron.
The Levites.
The Levites. You take 10% of a tribe, and 10% of a tribe, 10%, 10%, 10%. How many 10% did they get? They got, yeah, 130. They got 120%. Who was the richest tribe? Or who had the most in possession?
Everything but the main.
If everybody gave, you're right. But I figure that over a long period of time, there was
Well, yeah, but we can say that about us too. I mean,
not giving their 10%.
well, sure, but I mean, the national statistic is that 7% of the actual churchgoers give tithe. Yet we've got $20 million cathedrals. So guess what? It doesn't really matter. I'm making the point though that at this point they've seen God's power and they're getting told you got to give a tithe. I think they were probably given. I think they made that first step. So at least that first month they decided, okay, well, we're going to do this. So Levi, who has no inheritance, because what? God is their inheritance. They are God's inheritance. That's the point. Yet he's giving them more than any of the rest. Does that hit home for anybody else? Because it hits home to me, because we look at the fact, I know Gabriel and I were talking about this. The problem with the rich young ruler. What was it? Hold on. Think about it. What was his problem? Okay. What is it harder? It's harder for a rich man to enter heaven than it is for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle, right? Do you understand that that didn't come with a key that said, well, you can only have 120 camels, 130 donkeys, 10 shekels of silver, and 20 shekels of gold? That's not in here. So does the actual money amount matter?
Nope.
No. The definition of rich to me has changed. And that's what I'm also seeing here, though, is that the definitions, we've got to start getting those right. Because it's harder for a rich man to enter heaven than it is for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle. What was the problem with the All right, why was it even brought to Yeshua's attention while he was at the temple about the woman that gave her last two cents?
Because she worshiped God.
It was brought up because the apostles who have been with Yeshua this entire time didn't understand the difference. Because even they were defending the rich people. What were the rich people doing? They were giving to be seen. They were given not because they decided it was the best thing to do and because it was what God has told us to do. That wasn't the case. What they were doing was they were flaunting their money. And they were saying, I'm better than you. Look at me, look at me, look at me. You know, I'm not going to name the church, but Randy Key and I actually went to a church that there's a tithers club, a big tithers club. Not only did they get special treatment, they actually got time with the pastor that you didn't normally get. They got special dinners with guest speakers that came in. And we were humble enough to get to serve them dinner. So I'm just saying, I think there's a skewed perspective of definition. Phil and I have talked about this a lot. Deanna and I have talked about this a lot. There's a lot of misgivings about these words and definitions. But right here we're actually talking about, I know it's not. Well, fine. But I'm making the point here that we have these skewed definitions. And rich doesn't mean what we think it means. So when we say that, well, they were rich. Okay, their attitude was rich. Okay? But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money they had. Here, we're looking at the fact that God has given the ones that aren't to have anything. Do the Levites get any inheritance? Do they get any possession? No, except what? What God gives them. And He happens to give them more than anybody else.
Not to mention the offerings,
Right.
the skins of the burnt
Absolutely. Yeah, let alone the fact that their food's provided. That land is actually provided for them. It's funny to me. So, anybody got any thoughts, questions, interruptions, actions, whatever? Hello?
Yeah, one of the things that came up on 18 that I thought was really kind of interesting that was in 1819, and they bring up the topic of a covenant of salt. That I thought was really, you know, I mean, we have what? We have a covenant of blood, right? Now there's this covenant of salt, and really only in 3 places. Leviticus 2:13, and then in 2 Chronicles 13:5, do they really refer to this? And so I thought it was really kind of interesting. I was trying to get an idea of, well, what is this covenant of salt? What is it really? What's he really talking about? Why is it significant? I mean, any kind of covenant we know is significant.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I don't know. The best I can come up with is that first of all, every offering must be covered with salt before it's offered. And we know the references when he talks to, you know, if salt should lose its saltiness, then what good is it's worthless. It's, you know, and I'm kind of thinking that there's this element of it's a sort of a covering, you know, and I'm really kind of curious if anybody has more to add to it, because it's something that I'm really curious about. Covenants are important, you know, and so understanding the different ones. I mean, you know we had a covenant with Moses, or with Abraham and stuff like that, and we have an understanding, at least, of what the covenant of blood is about, in a sense. And I think this is probably one of the least maybe talked about or understood, is this covenant of salt.
Jay?
Rico does several very, very good on covenant of salt with a fresh covenant oil, and that'd be a good resource to work with.
Okay.
Go to Rico.
All right, so homework for next week.
You got to check. Thanks.
But besides that, I actually think that it's going to go into your portion next week. I've got thoughts on it, but I think it's going to go into your portion for next week. Because what is salt used for?
Preserve.
Preserve. How long does God want us to be clean?
Forever.
Forever.
Just thought. Okay, so my beautiful, beautiful.